huddled close together with their backs against the headboard of the old bed, the quilt pulled tightly under their chins. The boys waited for more than an hour, not once hearing an unusual sound. They started to relax and began to believe that perhaps the menacing visit would not come after all. Not able to keep their eyes open any longer, soon after, they each drifted off to sleep. Sometime deep into the overnight hours, the youngest of the three heard the first sound. The heavy shuffling of a pair of monstrous feet dragging across the hardwood floor. Another pair closely followed the first. Trembling with terror, he nudged his brothers, who on either side awake. "They're here," he whispered. Indeed they were. The unmistakable sounds of the beast clashing from across the room were clear, a rough and tumble wrestling distinct. All three of the boys now quivered beneath the quilt, afraid to look, but knowing too that they had to defy their fear, challenge the creatures. Recognizing that he had the duty to lead by example, the oldest brother led his younger brothers in a mouthed countdown from 3, 2, 1, look! The boys pulled the quilt from over their heads, though just barely, and stared in the direction of the toy chest, which seemed always to be the center of the ghastly activity. There before them stood the gruesome duo, upper limbs locked together, thrashing and rocking about, each testing the strength of the other. The equally matched fiends paused in their struggle, one against the other, to take notice of the three boys, and the unprecedented bold move that they had made. Seemingly surprised, though not unsettled by the young men's daring bravado. The eyes of the monsters locked onto those of the three, burning, wicked eyes that raged with a mixture of orange, red, and yellow, penetrating to the very marrow of the terrified trio. Wholly aware that the attention of the brutes was now focused fully on them, the petrified boys ducked back under the protective quilt, pulling it ever tighter over their heads. "This isn't real. It can't be," said the oldest. "It's real enough for me," exclaimed the middle brother. The youngest emphatically nodded his agreement, trying to convince his younger siblings that it could not be actual monsters that they had seen. The oldest and bravest brother ordered them to look again. For the second time he mouthed the countdown. 3, 2, 1, look! Once more they pulled back the quilt, and yet again the brutes were visible before the boys. Only now they had closed the distance between them and the bed by half. The fiery cauldron that was the eyes of the beast bubbled and boiled in an ever-increasing fury. Menacing extremities that could only pass as arms, reaching toward the three, vicious daggers of teeth snarling and lashing at the night. The horrifying scene shocked the boys, and they sat there in frozen, mind-numbing silence. The only sound that either could hear was the forceful pounding of their own hearts, hammering in their throats and ears. Screaming, screaming, and screaming! Yet no sound could be heard. The intensity of terror was so complete that the very vocal cords of the three boys were constricted and squeezed tight. Instinctively they recoiled and retreated within the defensive boundaries of the old quilt yet again. As the quaking trio clustered tightly under their shield, each clinging to the other in an attempt to cloak themselves and their brothers from harm, the ghouls advanced. Closer, closer, and ever more closer they came, and although the light in their room was meager, it was enough to cast the threatening shadows of the demons on the umbrella of the quilt just above their heads, looming large now, just inches away. The violent shaking and trembling of the boys caused the now too small bed to shudder beneath them, bucking wildly up, down, and sideways. Then again, it may have been the weight of the beast on the bed advancing further still that caused the forceful movement. None can now know, for it was at that very moment that the panic reached its zenith, a terrible twisting of reality and unbearable nightmares images swirled around and around in an ever-shrinking cyclone of pinwheel clusters, distorting their vision, encircling them in a tunnel of darkness. Sometime much later, shivering and drenched with sweat, the boys regained groggy consciousness. Their young bodies were exhausted, every muscle sore and aching. Dazed and confused, they surveyed their surroundings. The early morning sunshine illuminated the room, revealing the hellish truth of the night just past. Spread throughout the room was a most extensive chaos that they had yet awakened to. Every item of the three was strewn about the floor, the dresser laying face down, and the toy chest emptied, its contents scattered. The bed, which had been their safe haven, angled sharply away from the wall, leaving no doubt that the nighttime visitation had been real. There was an area of the disheveled room that was clear, though. One area approximately 3 feet squared that contained no piece of clothing, no wayward toy. However, it was not truly empty, for there in the center of this ring-like space were the 2 plastic figurines, their upper limbs entwined as if engaged in a great fight to the finish. As the boys picked up the tremendous jumble, they knew that no words need be spoken between them, for each had experienced the most evil of nightmares together. Their thoughts, fears, and resolve were now as one, and the discord that they may have had vanished with the breaking dawn. All three knew that they must work jointly to purge the foul presence that had invaded their home, and they knew that they must do so before another night drew near, as they could not endure even one more night of the ghoulish entity's indescribable taunting. It was obvious to them now that the 2 figurines that they had found on their first day in this new house was the source of this malevolent presence. The boys had to find a way to destroy the creatures lest they themselves be destroyed, but all three were fearful of handling them. Using a mismatched sock whose mate had long since vanished, the oldest brother gathered the entangled pair, depositing them in a shoebox. It occurred to the boys to burn the beast in a raging fire, and yet, if these demons were from the very pits of hell themselves, perhaps the flames would prove inconsequential. Moreover, the parents forbade any of the three from involvement with matches. Therefore, one logical alternative remained. The creatures must be returned to the cursed ground from which they had come. The boys were hopeful that the burying of the fiends would fracture the blight which had besieged their family, and peace would be restored. Success was only partial, for while the entombment of the brutes deep within the mound of the side yard ceased the nocturnal visitations to the boys, it did nothing to subside the abnormal activities experienced by any of the others. The story closes on a small open platform of an Amtrak station in Aurora, Colorado. The year is 1966. The month is June. The mother and her 6 children board an eastbound train, bound for Detroit. bound for home. The husband follows by car, racing to leave behind the peculiar goings-on that had so plagued his family and the dream he had to conquer the West. During a cross-country trip many years later, the middle of the three brothers drove by the old haunted house while passing through Denver, eager to see if it were still standing and the bare dirt mound of the side yard was still visible. Passing by slowly, he could see that both the house and the mound were still there, seemingly unchanged. His sweating palms and brow indicated to him that the curse of the creatures may still be present, buried, but perhaps not deep enough to prevent a resurrection. He prayed that the current family would leave the mound undisturbed, fearing that the evil incarnate of his youth might otherwise subjugate another family to the trauma survived by he and his brothers. So, if you live in a Denver suburb, or any other for that matter, and the house you occupy be not your own, pay attention to the sights and sounds of your dwelling. If your children or siblings come to you with a tale of inconceivable horror, do not be so quick to dismiss their apprehension with a wave of the hand, for you may not know the evil history of your home. Take heed, my friends, lest you find yourselves in a horrifying situation where your mind screams the question, "What